Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, Team Mosso at the1916company.com for purchase pricing and availability questions concerning this watch. Today we have a 2025 model year limited edition of 750 pieces in stainless steel. From Breitling, this is the Top Time B01 Martini Racing. Race cars powered by a combination of gasoline and alcohol via Martini sponsorship. They were famous for rally racing and endurance sports car competition. The watch itself represents a somewhat earlier era, 1960s Breitling chronograph design. We'll talk about some of the references here, but the Martini racing colors are the obvious part. What's going to stand out is that the watch itself is a lot smaller than you think it is. It's 38 millimeters in diameter. It's 13.4 millimeters thick, and then from lug tip to lug tip, 44.6 millimeters with an 18 millimeter spacing between the lugs, very close to the 1960s and early 70s timepieces that inspire it. We'll throw it on my wrist, which is 16 centimeters in circumference. You can see this wears really nicely. The lugs are well inboard at the edge of my wrist, so I could see this wearing well on a wrist as small as 14 centimeters circumference, no problem. And while it's not super thin, it is nicely sloped in profile, so it should fit underneath dress cuffs, and not just jackets, but the sleeves of the shirt themselves. And then you can see underneath the lug profile, we have this sort of leather atop leather perforation with a leather backing, an Epsom leather. This is calfskin with a stamped on sort of grain pattern. It's dark blue, has a contrasting stitch, aviator style. These perforations are a nod to often synthetic straps used on vintage Breitling chronographs in the 60s and 70s. The contrasting stitch is a nice touch, and Breitling is always generous with the leather. As you can see, the sheer cut sides are lacquered for refinement, but the cuts are thick. You're getting a lot of the hide here. We have signal yellow on the bottom. You can't see it when it's on the wrist, but it's very soft and very substantial. Breitling punching above its weight with strap quality. You can see a brand new factory strap. We've got a Breitling buckle right here. It's a pin buckle. It has a little bit of a bevel on the flank. It's all polished with the exception of the underside. The case is a handsome piece. You can see almost like a miniature Radomir 1940. That's sort of how I would describe it, but it's true to history, as the watch draws on a couple of different previous Breitling models, and I guess we should talk about a few of those. So if you look at the reference 2007, you'll see that oftentimes this case design is combined with the coining that you see on the profiles. You see how at the corners we have this coining or fluting? This case design with that coining is seen on many of the 2007 models, like the 2007/33.3. Also, the 2211 will feature elements like these mushroom-style pump pushers, and also what's often described as the surfboard dial, where you have this sort of surfboard-like form running horizontally across the dial and encompassing the running seconds and the chronograph minutes. So you can see where these elements come from, all late 1960s references. Not necessarily all from the same watch, but in aggregate, that is what is being referenced. Now we've got a push-down crown here, but the case is 100 meters water resistant. We have a dramatically boxed glass box style sapphire crystal. So the idea here is to emulate a vintage plexi, and it does that well with a double camber, giving you a lot of plexi-like distortion. Here we have applique indices, Martini-style colors on the dial, a little bit of an azurage inside the sub-registers. We will do a quick loom shot. The watch is decently loomed, as you can see. And then we've got a tachymetric scale outboard for gauging the speed of an object, such as a Martini-sponsored Lancia in rally racing, or maybe a Porsche in endurance sports car racing. It is a chronometer, and the movement on the inside is Breitling's B01, which must fill every square millimeter of the inside of this case. So, okay, here you go, 100 meters water resistant, steel B01, and one of 750. The movement, automatic winding, has a 70-hour power reserve, a stop seconds function, so if you pull the crown, everything stops. You can set it against a reference time. 5-position adjusted. It's a COSC certified Swiss chronometer. In this application, it's a 34 joule movement. The 5-position adjustment and the COSC certification in tandem with a 4 hertz beat rate and a combination of a column wheel for crisp function selection and a vertical clutch So when you engage, the vertical clutch, unlike a lateral clutch, is seamless. There's no jump or stagger when you start it up. Also, a nice feature of a vertical clutch is that you can just leave it running full time if you like to see seconds at center. There's no additional hazard, wear, or tear to the watch. The fact that we're still nostalgic about this case and dial design going on half a century later, and Martini racing going on 30 years later, from the most recent, I suppose, probably in the early 90s that I saw it. A very interesting combination and a pleasing combo, one that's already stood the test of time and will probably look just as good 50 years hence. Reach out to Team Mosso at the 1916company.com for purchase and pricing details.